Welcome to the 20s podcast. This is a podcast for the girlies in their 20s who are seeking a life lived to the fullest. We are having conversations that we are passionate about, from personal experiences, business, career, health, spirituality, and just some real talk. We're diving into it all. At the end of the day, we want you to feel encouraged, inspired, and connected. And so with that, I'm Liv.
And I'm Meg, and Liv and I have been best friends for almost 18 years now, which is crazy. And we've lived so much life together, and we're just really excited to bring you along into our lives as we continue to just navigate through life in our 20s.
Yeah, we're passionate about this topic. It actually started about 4 years ago. We became business owners and started a little online store called Shop 20s, which is why our podcast is now called the 20s Podcast. We sold clothing that had meaningful messages and started just intentional conversations within life and community. And it really just sparked our love for living intentionally in our 20s. And so this podcast is really just an extension of what that was, that business, and it kind of just has evolved into us today still wanting to encourage people to live intentionally in their 20s, have conversations that we really care about in our life. And so we're excited to talk about all the things from business, health, career, girlhood, community, and just honestly, hopefully provide a ton of value for all the girls who are just trying to navigate through this life. And so
Yeah, a lot of these conversations and topics have just stemmed from the last 5 years of our lives.
Yep.
Liv just turned 26. I'll be 26 in April. It's just been, we've been having so many conversations with our peers and friends and people older than us of what life is like in our 20s. And it's a super just unique decade of our lives where everybody's in different life seasons. There's so many changes. You're just trying to get your feet on the ground, and there's just a uniqueness of it that we feel really passionate about talking about and wanting people to feel connected in and not feel alone in navigating through life in their 20s. And so we're really excited to just continue the conversations that we're already having in our own lives, but bring them on to this podcast for all of you.
Yeah. So with that, our first episode, we're going to actually go through 10 different things. We're going to call it 10 tough cookies, but it's 10 things about being in your 20s that we find to be just a tough cookie, because there's things that are so good and so fun, but honestly, it's also, there's some challenging things that we have to walk through. So we compiled a list of 10 things that we have either struggled with or things that our friends talk about a lot, and we hope that we can just maybe give a little bit of encouragement that you're not alone. So welcome to our first episode and our first segment called 10 Tough Cookies.
10 tough cookies.
All
Okay.
right, let's dive on in.
Number 1 is you don't know what you're doing.
Me. So I feel like this is just like such a consistent thing that we definitely have felt.
Yes.
And we see in our friends literally all the time. It's like this statement that everyone says, and that is that you just don't know what you're doing. The reality is you're adulting for the first time in your 20s. You either graduate high school and you go off to college, or you start your job, and the reality is it's genuinely the first time that we're ever taking care of ourselves and learning to be an adult. And I don't think we necessarily give as much credit just to the fact that we've never done this before. And so yeah, we just see this all the time, and I think people get so discouraged because they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing with my career or what I'm doing just like with everything. And so
I think it can be so easy to like have the fear of like, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know what I'm doing, because we think that everybody else has it all figured out. And that is just such a lie. Like, it's just the reality that nobody has this perfect life, has it all figured out. And it's been fun having conversations with some older people in our lives about this of, there was someone in like their 60s who was saying like, I'm still trying to figure out who I want to be when I grow up. And it was like, oh, that's actually so freeing. We have our whole lives to continue to just explore our passions and who we are and get to do different things. And it's okay that we don't have this picture perfect plan all figured out, and it's just not a realistic expectation to put on ourselves.
It's not a realistic expectation. And honestly, I think what's the biggest problem when we don't know what we're doing is we end up doing nothing at all, because we just get paralyzed because we're like, I don't know what I'm doing, which is just genuinely so silly. Just silly goose move to literally not do anything, because the reality is everyone starts in this place, and it's best that we just move and do something and figure it out. And so I think that's something that we're passionate about, is when we see people who are just like so fearful and so anxious and they just do nothing because they don't know what they're doing. The reality is you can really do whatever you want, even if you don't know what you're doing. And so we love talking about that. So make sure that you just don't sit in the paralysis of it all.
Okay, number 2. What's this one, Liv?
Financial pressure. So this is a real tough cookie. I feel like this is one that we'll speak on behalf of ourselves, but I think there's many different dynamics to financial pressure depending on your circumstances or your situation. But I know probably the thing that was like that gave us the most amount of pressure early on in our 20s is we just were so ignorant to all things finances. And instead of learning about it and educating ourselves about it, I think we just try to ignore the conversation, which just made the situation and the tough cookie even more tough. And so it's honestly been only like a thing that we've grown a ton in, I would say, in the past year. Like the first 5 years of our 20s, I think we were just really, really not great at the whole navigating the financial pressure.
Yes. Lots of anxiety, lots of unknowns.
Angsty girlies.
And so we're excited to have more even practical conversations too on here about just the financial pressures and how to take some of these steps in our 20s to not have to experience so much anxiety around it. And so it's been fun this year. We got a budget for the first time in the last year.
Isn't that crazy?
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. It's actually like one of the number one things, like if you listen to anything about finances, the thing that like separates people from wealth and whatever the opposite of wealth is, I don't even know, is literally a family, they call it a personal family budget. So it's literally just tracking your expenses. And so, we're excited to dive into it because we are not finance girlies.
No.
Even though we would consider ourselves business girlies. We love learning about strategy, all the things. We're not numbers girls by nature, but we've been able to really, I feel like, gain some good skill. And we're excited to talk about finances because the girlies need to be...
We can all be finance girlies.
Yeah.
Even if we don't want to be, we can be. And it's not that scary.
There's more space in the finance world.
For us girlies.
For us girlies. It's not just the finance bros who can know about finances. It's us too. That's our second tough cookies. Financial pressure.
Okay. Number 3 goes along with the pressures, but this is external pressure, which we couldn't really figure out the best word for it, of like pressure, but I think a lot of it has to do with like these external expectations even of navigating through making decisions about our life, but with pressure, expectation from family, peers, friends, social media, society in general, of where we think we should be or what our life should look like. And everyone's different, but I think we just notice some trends, like even in our culture and society, of like being in America and just in like a westernized society that, I don't know, we just have a lot of things that, although we're so privileged, there's also with like a lot of even just like blessing and responsibility comes a lot of pressure. And so we want to talk about it because we think it's a good conversation to have. And that's our third tough cookie, which leads us to number 4. Our fourth tough cookie is managing self. This is one of my favorites because there's just so many funny things you learn when you get into your 20s, and we're all coming into our 20s with different backgrounds of what we learned growing up and what our responsibilities were versus what they weren't. And so we're learning how to manage ourselves in very practical ways, from laundry and groceries and cleaning and making doctor's appointments, health insurance, learning how to keep a schedule and be able to not overcommit ourselves to a million things. And so there's so much here that we could dive into about how do we manage ourselves to not live these like overwhelmed, stressful, chaotic lives and get in some good rhythms.
That's good. We hope to get real practical. Like, we are just excited to, take what we've learned and hopefully share it, because we all just need to be taught, and we need to like learn how to take care of ourselves, which feels so, once again, I feel like we're saying like some really obvious things, but at the same time, every skill has to be learned and taught. And it's not, if like you're not learning it actively, like you just won't actually get the skill. So we're going to talk about Google Calendar and cleaning your house.
Yep.
Number 5, major life transitions. Life transitions are so hard.
There's so many of them all the time.
Yeah. And Meg and I are super in life transition
a big
right
old
now.
life transition.
So Meg's getting married in June, and we've been roommates for like
4 years.
4 or 5 years, and we're best friends, business partners, like all the things. And so there definitely has been tears that have been shed and lots of grief, but also tons of excitement because life transitions are so exciting. Like, Meg literally put an offer in on a house this week, and we're vision boarding like how we're going to renovate this place. And there's so much joy and excitement, but it's also hard. And with every good thing that comes in life, like there has to some degree be death of the old thing. And so we want like these beautiful lives that are like filled with these beautiful things, but I think what we don't recognize is that we have to go through grief and just like process through the loss of what was to actually like step into the good. But with that, it doesn't make transitions easy. And I think people don't talk about it enough, that sometimes life is just hard transitions, even if they're good. And being in your 20s, there's so many. Like, marriage is just one of them. Buying a house is one of them. Going off to college for the first time. Maybe like we have friends who are literally married and having babies. We have like there's so many transitions. It's like the 20s is just, I swear, just like every year you just go through a new major transition. So,
and I think it's like one of the first times in our lives where there is just an abundance of transition, where for most of us, we grew up in like traditional, like you go to elementary school, you go to middle school, you go to high school, then you go to the trades or you go to college. And then after that, there's like no longer a game plan for you. And so I think we're experiencing transition for one of the first times, and it can feel hard and clunky, but I think it's such a good thing for us to learn how to embrace and find just joy in the midst of it too, because the reality is we are going to experience transition for the rest of our lives. Like it's always going to be ever changing for many different reasons. And so we got to get comfortable with
comfy with the uncomfy.
These transitions. And so it's a
so
good thing. And it forces us to grow. And so
can't
grow unless you
grow, everybody. It's so good.
Okay. Number 6. Number 6, you don't know your passions or your purpose.
Yeah. And I think for some people, like knowing your passions and purpose maybe becomes more natural to you. Like there's people who definitely dream their entire life of the career that they're going to step into. But we think for so many, it's just a need to discover who you are and what you like and what you don't like. And there's honestly a lot of things that want to stop us from even stepping fully into our passions and our purposes. Things we talked about, like different pressures and different expectations we can put on ourselves. But we are so passionate. One of our passions, one of our purposes in life, we feel, is to call people to live in their passions and purpose.
For sure.
Which is just a lot of passion and purpose words.
For sure.
Passion and purpose. But it's true, because we think like if everyone's in their passions and their purposes and are just truly stepping into the person they've been created to be, this world is just going to be a so much brighter, lighter place. And ultimately we just want to see a lot of beauty in life come from the places that we're in. Yeah. So we're excited to talk about passions and purpose. And if I guess you don't know what your passions and purpose are, we do feel like we have some like practical tools even to help you discover that. So
Yeah.
stay listening to the podcast and we'll talk about it. So that leads us to number 7, which is health and wellness challenges.
Health and wellness challenges.
That's the next cue for me to maybe answer this one. I
I
totally can.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you start with this one. I think I'll have some things to add, but
Okay. So
I feel like this is your passion. Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna take this one. So health and wellness, obviously some people this isn't a thing for them. But we all have people in our life who are walking through health and wellness challenges or just journeys in general. So this in my 20s has been like probably 6 years of me seeking healing in my life. And I think you kind of come to this point where you feel the weight of, I don't know, you just like feel how fleeting life is and just want to like take care of your body well. But this is like a big conversation because you don't ever want to do anything in fear and like take care of your body out of a place of, I don't know, like I'm just going to stress about managing everything. But at the same time, we want to like I said, take care of what we got. And we love talking about health and wellness. I feel like most girlies that I know, and maybe this is just what's in the water here in Wisconsin, but so many girls have tummy problems. And it really has become just like a huge part of doing life in your 20s for like our group of girls here where we live, is just taking care of our bodies and learning how to take care of our bodies and undoing some of the damage that has been done throughout the first quarter of our life. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll have a ton of conversation about health, everything from food, movement, mental health, healing, our minds. We will probably get specific about all kinds of things. We've deep dived into oral health and tummy health and
A lot of bunny trails.
a lot of bunny trails we could go down, and we have a lot of experts in our life, so we'll bring them on to talk about all things taking care of ourselves. So we love this conversation a lot.
Yeah, and learning how to not only take care of ourselves, but walk with the people that are going through maybe greater health challenges than ourselves as well, and how to support the people in our lives and encourage them and get alongside them. And so it's been such a huge part of our lives and the people around us. And so,
because Meg doesn't have like a lot of like super things wrong with you, but like it's been like the best thing ever having a best friend who walks with me through my struggle. And there's a whole art to that and a whole thing to be learned in it. So yeah, we heal in community and we heal with people. So
okay,
that's our number 7.
Number 7. Number 8, learning how to be a woman.
Learning how to be a woman, everybody. It's a tough cookie.
Oh gosh, this one I feel like has so many different random bunny trails.
We didn't even really know what.
We didn't even know how to say it, and we're not going to get into it too much. But there really is something about just like maturing and growing up and embracing our beauty and femininity. Femininity. I think that's the right word. And just learning who we are and how we've been created and how to embrace just womanhood. And so, and our style and our clothes, and there's just so many different things to it. And so
hopefully this podcast
fun.
is like the American Girl doll book that we all got growing up.
But for our 20s,
how to be a woman.
We need that.
For real. And it is something that needs to be taught. And like you could go to 100 places to look on like what does it mean to be like a secure, like confident, beautiful woman. But we hope that we can have conversations that are actually helpful. And I don't know, there's a whole art to it, and learning how to be a girl.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Gosh, I'm like holding back busting laughing from just the pictures going through my head right now of that American Girl doll book.
Oh, raise your hand if you have the American Girl doll book.
I can't even say what I want to say. It's not.
Was it the boob progression?
The boob progression.
The boob progression.
I stopped at the first one, and no one ever told me I wasn't going to get to the fourth. So I have beef with the American Girl doll book.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Literally, I was like, I remember literally going So I had an older sister, and so if you have an older sister, you get the American Girl doll book just like a little bit earlier because like you see it in her room, and then you like open it up like 3 years too early, and I just remember being petrified.
Yes.
Like all the things, the hair,
The
tampons,
tampons, everything. It's too much.
Oh my gosh. So I think we were actually with like learning how to be a woman. I don't know. Maybe I got off on a bunny trail with the American Girl doll thing. I don't know if we were going to get that logistical, but maybe we will.
We might. You never know.
You never know.
There's some things that just
Okay.
have to be talked about, and if other people aren't, we will.
And to be honest, literally, we'll just be honest for a second. At our girls' night last Thursday, we were doing some anatomy work via Google. Maybe we should cut that. I don't know. Because, it's like, what?
What is a uterus? I don't quite know. I feel like I should know these things.
Also, you start watching some like birthing videos, and next thing you know, your girls' nights consist of identifying what's what.
Okay.
And so we were marketing majors, just to clarify.
Yes, not scientific girlies over here. But
Anyways, that's our number 8.
okay.
That one took a turn this time.
Yeah, that one was quite the turn. And now we have to like calm down into
Okay.
tough cookie number 9.
Tough cookie number 9. So we're transitioning into something a little less funny, but number 9 is seasons of grief and loss. So this one's a big one. Something that's inevitable in life is grief, and that we're going to lose people and lose circumstances, relationships, situations.
Yeah.
Take it away.
I feel like grief, loss, healing in our 20s, it looks really different for every person. And there's so many different levels and extremes of it, but it's still something, no matter how big or small the scale of grief or loss that you're experiencing, it's something we have to learn how to deal with and process with and invite people into it. And obviously you go through those things before you're in your 20s too, but I think there is just something of our brains developing and us learning how to process and learning how to manage our emotions and things like that, that allows us to just navigate grief and loss and healing in a whole different way.
Totally. Yeah, that's really good, Meg. Yeah, we've had personal experiences with grief and loss, so we hope that we can share that with you, and just by no means are we experts, but we're, I guess, friends and sisters in this, that, we've walked through stuff, and we hope that we can just shed light to those who are in similar situations. So yeah, that'll be a good conversation and an important one to have. So that's number 9. And which brings us to our last tough cookie, number 10, which is navigating friendships. And we tagged on to that overcoming loneliness.
I feel like, again, our 20s is so unique, especially if you just came out of high school or you just came out of college, or these environments that kind of help you foster friendships and relationships. You're around people your own age and stuff. You can get tossed into a career, just the world, and be like, I actually have no idea how to make friends or where to make friends or how to break free from social anxiety or whatever it is. And so there's just a lot of new things in learning how to be in friendships and make friendships in our 20s that looks a lot different than it did when we were kids.
Yeah, that's really good. Another thing that I feel like we're passionate about is we've been friends for 18 years. And so that hasn't come without challenges or like the need to work through things to stay connected and stay close. It's required, like a lot of intentionality. And so we hope that we can talk about some of like our experiences that we've had, tell some stories about times when our friendship was in shambles, or when we like had to be really honest with each other and apologize.
Hard conversations,
because once again, we see that this is a topic that maybe isn't talked about enough. So we really hope that we can, talk about friendship and help encourage you to cultivate meaningful relationships in your life, because we can't do life alone.
No.
We weren't meant to do life alone. Life is meant to be lived with people, and it's so much better that way. And so we hope that we can encourage you to do that. So that is our 10 tough cookies. These are conversations that are maybe just a little glimpse and a little taste of what you're going to see on this podcast. We will also be talking about a large variety of different things, but our goal is to have a podcast every single week where we can fill you in on our life, things that we're processing through, and also have these meaningful conversations that are necessary to be had in our 20s. So that, I guess, concludes our first podcast.
And so we're so excited that you guys are here and listening and are going to be able to tune in every single week. And so with that, we'll see you next week on Wednesday.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.